Late by a minute today, but it's going to be a beautifully blessed day. It's a big day because I'm going to formally introduce myself and what the do you rules can mean for you. Let's kick it off. Most people will never know what real power looks like. Most people, most of us, will never feel what it's like to run the system instead of getting run by it because they've been conditioned to move like everyone else, to believe there's only one way to win because they've been trained to chase a version of success that was never theirs to begin with. But you, if you're here with me at 4 a.m., you already know you're built different, wired different. You move when others sleep. And here, we don't hesitate, we don't wait, we don't follow. We build, we execute, we separate. My beautifully blessed people, this is Raw at 4, where faith is the foundation, discipline is the weapon, and execution is the proof. Because the discipline they fear, that's the strength we build. But it's time to be real. If you're going to listen to someone, especially at 4 o'clock in the morning, I get it. You need to know if they've actually lived it, if they've built it, if they've survived it. Because too many people, especially these days, everyone has a mic and a camera, preach from theory. Too many people talk about power and can profess to have the knowledge and sound real eloquent and dope, but have never truly applied it because they have never had to fight for it. So before I tell you why the do you rules exists, let me tell you why I exist and why I move the way I do. So do you rules Raw 4 story time is my formal introduction to who I am. So let me make something clear. This isn't just talk. It's not theory. This is built. I am built from real life, real execution, real proof. Stop talking to me, Siri. Born and raised in the South Bronx, Forest Projects to be exact. Go look that up. Suffice it to say, it was no picnic. It wasn't sunshine and rainbows. It wasn't the type of foundation you'd expect to launch you into absolute success. Now, born in 81, I came into this world at an interesting time, especially given my environment, that South Bronx environment. If you didn't know what 81 would bring in that time, that was essentially the crack era. And if you've seen it on TV, you've seen the visuals. And let me tell you, I lived it. I lived it and obviously quite different living it. And I can remember on the block, pick up basketball games with the crew, running through the hallways and staircases, and literally seeing the floor everywhere littered with empty crack vials. Signs of the time, if you would. Clear evidence of the influence surrounding us. And then when you look around at the bodies that were drugged up, the same bodies that moved like zombies, dope fiend lean and all that, slow, lifeless, broken. What was occurring was they were internally chasing an elevation so strong they would do anything to return to it, which was massively powerful. And they do anything to return to it, regardless of the cost to mind, body, spirit, or relationships. And when you step back and observe it objectively, without emotion, without ego, this was really the perfect demonstration of what happens when a system is left unchecked and unchallenged. Sure, clearly the system was punishing us, but worse, we are punishing ourselves. And nobody was working on a solution. So I watched it happen in real time. I watched people get stuck. I watched them fall off. I watched them become victims to the system because they never realized they could run one of their own. My beautiful people, I don't care where you're at. It's a system. And every system presents a lock or a key. And whether you accept it consciously or not, you are choosing one. Faithlessly or faithfully, you are always doing you. But at that time, immersed in this environment, I didn't see it that way. All I knew was that I was trapped in the system with no apparent way out. No handouts, no blueprints, no mentors, no success system. Really, it was just me, the streets, and a choice I hadn't realized I had. But eventually, I found my way to a key. A key that didn't come from a degree, because I never had one and still don't. A key that didn't come from privilege. Clearly, I didn't have that either. Yet I still built my way to VP comp at $1 billion company, and not just one, but multiple $1 billion organizations have trusted me with all I've been through from where I've come to optimize their systems. You dig? And how? Fundamentally, without even being conscious and realizing it, I've never been one to wait for permission. I found a way to take control of my system. And the transition, I'll get into a little depth of a story, from floundering, kind of being in the streets and not understanding where I was going, no blueprint, no mentor, no guide, no lane, nowhere really to rest my head. I knew I needed to do something. At 18, I joined the reserves for a lot of reasons, mostly just to give myself some stabilization, buy myself some time. And what that did was gave me about a good year and a half of basic training, training towards what my job would be in the reserves, combat training and all that. And I wasn't really committed in the way that this was going to be my career. Again, I just needed to buy time. And after that, it took me till I was about 20. And when I got back, I looked at, I gotta go work. And what I did was I joined a temp agency. A temp agency is a temporary agency that essentially puts you into odds and end jobs with the hopes of turning temp into permanent. That was the hope. And I went to a temp agency because I tried the jobs that were kind of in the market, as far as you try to go to Starbucks or the Gap. I did all these things that are available to someone who is about 20 with no skills and no clear direction as to how I can support. I had no experience. What was dope about the temp agency is you go in and they say, what are you looking for? I knew I wanted to be in an office. I just always knew I want an office. Give me an office. I can kill it in an office. When I first got to the temp agency, the woman kind of said, she really just said directly, everybody wants to be in an office. But before I can place you in an office, you got to prove to us that you're worthy of me putting you into an office. And it'll still likely be a temporary situation. It took me 100 days, which doesn't seem like that much at this time, but when you live in 100 days of temp jobs, and this is how it worked. One day I'd be sweeping floors. One day I might be counting ballots. One day I might be in the stock room. One day they may not have no work for me. And I repeated this habit over and over and over until I got to about 100 days of doing this. And the woman said, okay, we got something for you that's going to be permanent for the next 30 days. Why? Because for 100 days, I showed that I can show up, be available. Whatever the situation was, I got to work. I made the agency look good. They got me into an IT office. When I got to the IT office, the supervisor that hired me said, we need you for 30 days because someone's on maternity leave. After that, I don't want you to think nothing crazy. I don't want you to get too comfortable. We're going to move on from you after 30 days. I said, no problem. I came in every day, on time, every time, did the work I was asked to do, asked if there was anything else I could do additional every time before I left, right? I come in on time. I do my work before I left. Hey, supervisor, do you need me to do anything else? Nope. All right. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. After day 30, come to find out, it was essentially a 30-day interview to be hired full-time. I was presented with the job full-time in the IT office. Why? She said, for 6 months, they were looking to fill the role. They told everybody who came in that it was to backfill for somebody who was on maternity leave. The reason she did that was because if she told somebody, I'm going to hire you full-time if you do great for 30 days, she felt like they put a mask on. They would fake it for 30 days, and that's how she wound up getting some employees that after 30 days, she didn't really want. So her idea was, if I get you to think that you're not really going to be here past 30 days, I would see the real you. Imagine that. Consider that for your life. Consider that the systems around you are always systeming. So now here I am. I made it. Thrust now into IT. No experience, no real aspirations for it, no desire to be in tech at all. But think about it. Life didn't really ask me what I wanted. It just threw me in. And after I put in this energy and this effort and I was here, I had two options. Sink or build. And that's when I learned something that changed everything for me. And this is true for everybody, including you. The world runs on systems, which means that systems run the world. And those who understand them win. And those who master them is bigger than winning. They run the entire game. So I did what anyone who refuses to be controlled does. I became the system. I stopped assuming I had to play by someone else's rules. And I created my own rules to run it. Because at the end of the day, if it is the system that runs the world, then I'm going to make sure I run the system. Period. Now, if you're in the chat live, or if this makes it to you later, comment for me. Run the system. Because here's the thing. I could be selfish, but I don't want to be selfish because what I learned wasn't just for me. It was a blueprint, a system, a way to move that most people never even realize exists. And that is why I built Y.O.U rules. Because too many of us, especially if you're from where I'm from, and you were dealt the cards I were dealt, we move through life without ever questioning the code they're running on. They operate on someone else's programming, never realizing they have the power to rewrite it. So let me make this clear. This isn't just content. This isn't just a channel. Straight up, cliche. but I'm real about this. This is a movement because I believe most of us aren't failing because we're incapable. We're failing because we don't know the system we're in. We don't know how to run one, break one, or build one. And if we don't control the system, we get controlled by it. If you're feeling me, drop it in the chat. Drop it in the comments. We're going to run the system because here's the truth. Success is not one size fits all. It's not predetermined by background, degree, connections, or status. You don't have to chase wealth, recognition, or anyone's validation to be powerful. Some people thrive on the stage. Others thrive in silence. Both are valid. Your 9 to 5 can be your foundation, or your entrepreneurship can be your path. Both are valid. You can build wealth, or you can build peace. Both and all are valid. The root of the only rule, you must be intentional about what you choose when you do you, because you're always doing you. Why is that? Because without intention, there's no alignment. Without alignment, there's no execution. Without execution, there's no power. And without power, without your power, it's not your life. It's just a life design system you're living in. So do you rules isn't about fitting in. We separate, we elevate, we stand up. It's about taking control, setting your own code, and executing on your terms. Because real power, it's not given. It's built and it's taken. And if you're not the one running the system, you're the one getting run by it. My beautiful people, it's time for you to run your system. Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the comments. But don't get too hyped and excited yet. We're not done. Because here's the thing. Knowing the system exists isn't enough. In fact, I think that consciously at some point, even subconsciously maybe, we know there's a system out there. Seeing the game isn't enough, and it's all a game. If you don't have a code, you're just another piece being moved. And please don't be the pawn. Me, I refuse to be moved. And that's why I don't just move. I move and I run with laws. The way the street has laws and your system has laws. I move with laws, with principles, with an unshakable foundation. And these are the 4 rules of doing you. That's right. It's the do you rules. 4 rules. The 4 rules of doing you. It is a covenant that separates the powerful from the powerless. Because those who live by them, they don't just survive the system. They run it. So without further ado, I formally introduce to you the four rules of doing you. The covenant of power, respect, and accountability. My beautiful people. The first rule of doing you is, without the root system, the network collapses. God equals the root system. No root, no system. No God, no foundation. You can't run anything without a source that holds everything together. If the root dies, the whole operation is compromised. God, the architect of the system, the blueprint. Without the blueprint, everything falls apart. So if you down with do you rule one, God, however you define God, drop it in the chat, in the comments. God is the root. The second rule of doing you is the system moves before you see the results. Faith. Faith equals the operating system. You don't need to see the code for it to run. No faith, no function. Faith, the operating system that keeps it running. Without faith, hesitation kills execution. Faith, see it, be it, move. We execute. If you feeling do you rule number 2, drop a faith in the chat or in the comment section. The third rule of doing you is no security, no integrity. Your foundation will break. Honor. Honor equals the security protocol. If the security layer is weak, the system gets hacked. And there's hackers everywhere in our lives. If your principles are weak, you get hacked. Honor is the code that locks out corruption, deception, and weakness. Honor. Such an underused word and trait today. The firewall that protects the system. Without honor, you become vulnerable to corruption. If you're feeling do you rule number 3, drop it in the live chat. Drop it in the comments. Honor. The fourth rule of doing you is protect the firewall or watch the system get breached. Another word underused, understood, and misinterpreted. Loyalty. Loyalty equals the firewall. No firewall, the system is open to attacks. If you let disloyalty, betrayal, or weak energy in, you leave yourself open to destruction. Loyalty protects. Loyalty filters. Loyalty keeps everything running without compromise. Loyalty. The network that keeps the system connected. Without loyalty, nothing lasts. My beautiful people, if you're feeling do you rule number 4, drop a loyalty in the chat. Drop it in the comments. And I lied. Those are the 4 main rules of doing you, but there's a last rule of doing you. And the last rule of doing you is you either run the system or the system runs you. This ain't just a philosophy. This is an unshakable commitment to yourself. Violate it, and you'll always struggle. Live by it, and you will always move in power. This is why we separate. This is why we build. This is how we will elevate. My beautiful people, I'm giving you everything I got. This is who I am. This is what we're about. And now knowing these rules is one thing. Living them is hard. Any system. It doesn't have to be mine, yours, and ours. But this is what separates the powerful from the powerless. Because most people will hear this, they'll nod their head, they'll agree with it, they'll feel it. Ooh! But the difference between knowing and being, it's execution. That's why we don't just talk about the system. We install it, we live it, we prove it. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. And that's exactly what we're about to do with the 30-day challenge. I will remind you daily until it comes. On April 1st, the 30-day challenge begins. And it ain't just about habits. It's about installing a new system into your life. I hate to say it, but the truth is, some of us will stay the same next month. You won't. Some of us will keep waiting for change. You won't. Some of us will let another month slip by. I'm here to tell you, This is my reason that God sent me. You're watching this. You won't. Because for the next 30 days, we're going to debug the system, rebuild the process, optimize the framework. We're going to make success automatic, not just something you chase. This, my beautiful people, as this is making it to you, this is the moment where we separate. Are you in or are you out? It's that simple. My beautifully blessed people. Because God is the root and God is the system and God is all and God is in me the way God is in you. If you're here right now, it's not an accident. Something in you knows we're meant to not just exist. That you weren't meant to just exist. You were meant to build. You are a creator. I'll say it again. You are a creator, and now you have a choice. This is your fork in the road. This is where you decide. Stop playing games. Do you build or do you break? Do you execute or do you hesitate? Because the truth is, most people stay stuck. They loop, they sleep, especially right now at 4:28 a.m. But if you've made it this far, you don't get that luxury. I'm not letting you off the hook. I'm here to ride with you. You either take the system into your hands or it takes you. This is day 61. We reset tomorrow. April 1st, we stop making fools of ourselves. We separate. You either run the system or the system runs you. This is who I am. This is what I got. I assure you I'll be here for the entirety of the journey. This is where God has placed me. This is where God has placed you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.